Hi guys, it's Mattiace, and in today's video we'll be talking about following the gas from the mid to the end game basically, and using the gas as a strategy. Now, this principle basically works for all Battle Royale games, and it might not be gas that you're running away from, but yeah, the safe zone and the principle is the same, and it normally is also implied the same way, this very strategy. So now one of the main reasons why this is a functioning strategy is because it is very unlikely that you will be shot from behind or from maybe an even unexpected angle as long as you have the edge of the safe zone behind you. Now, depending on what Battle Royale game you're playing, people can stay alive or outside of the safe zone for a different amount of time, but in Warzone that time is very, very limited. Now, in the original Battle Royale, this is, in my opinion, a much more effective strategy. In Stimulus, it has a lot of drawbacks, and one of these drawbacks is what you see here. This guy had enough money to spawn back, so he tried to get back to his loot and gear up again, but because he died by the edge of the gas, he doesn't have much time, he can't wait around, and I am still here looting, and even when I'm done looting, this is actually a very good strategical place for me to be while I'm waiting for the next place to move to once the gas starts moving again. Now, if you would die within the safe zone instead, then you don't have to necessarily drop in this early on and go YOLO to get your loot. Instead, you might actually be able to pick up a weapon or two, maybe plate up a little bit, and most importantly, you give yourself the time to actually calculate for when is the best moment to try to pick up your weapons again. If you die by the edge of the zone, your time can be very, very limited. Now here you see I'm not actually by the very edge, so I'm constantly looking behind me, because I know this strategy is quite popular. Now keep in mind that even if the gas mask is there to save you from dying in the gas, it can actually be the one thing that gets you killed. And that is because the moment you enter the gas or get out of the gas, you will either, or your character will put it on or off automatically. And that puts you in a massive disadvantage should that happen once you engage an enemy. Now, what's kind of ironic about this is that many people who do this, they do it for the reason of trying to stay away from combat until the very end of the round, so to speak, to get as good of a placement as possible. But what I've come to realize is that if I, like in this case, for example, have a very slow round where there wasn't much action in the beginning, following the edge like this can actually mean that you will face a lot of opponents. Now, I know that a lot of people try to sit still hiding in a bush or like trying to sit as still as possible behind a rock, but I find that rather uncomfortable. I constantly move around to make myself as hard of a target as I can if there is a sniper with his aim on me. I personally, in any first-person shooter, I never liked the idea of being stationary, or almost never anyway. And that is because the risk that somebody gets an easy headshot on you is just too big. Now this is from one of the rounds when I've been streaming for way, way too long and I'm too tired to actually play the game. Notice I actually forgot to pick up the gas mask, and actually it could be the reason why I was able to kill that guy so easily, because if I would have had the gas mask on, it might have prevented me from landing those killing shots there.
People are following the gas.
So now here's a scenario where you can see that the gas can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. I know this guy is in this house. We've been watching each other for quite a while. Nobody took the engagement, and I started running before him and waited for the gas to flush him out. And of course, he was an easy kill for me because he either made a timing miscalculation or he just hoped that I wouldn't notice him so that he could shoot me from behind and then run out of the gas before dying. Now, in many situations, you don't want to just run in a straight line towards the safe zone. Instead, you might want to run either to the left and follow the gas or to the right and follow the gas. But in this scenario, I don't want to do that because it would put me in a bad situation. Another thing that also plays a big role in your success when you follow the gas like this is what kind of weapons you have. If you, like me, have a submachine gun that is built for mobility, then your chances of surviving and using the gas to your advantage is much higher because you have a weapon that allows you to sprint faster. And that's also good in a scenario where the gas is moving a little bit faster than you did anticipate. Now here we're at the edge of the military base, and I'm staying here by this loot where I just killed this guy, but apparently it wasn't such a good hiding place, and I almost lost all my shields there to a guy that came from basically the same place where I came from just earlier. Now, there's been a lot of advices from a lot of different content creators about following the gas and staying by the edge of the gas, and unfortunately, I think that's what happens with this player, is that some people follow this too blindly. Remember that when you take advices from experienced players, if they are YouTubers or content creators, you have to understand that almost all of these advices are situational. You never follow an advice blindly. Unfortunately, this is something that I've seen with a lot of players, that especially when it comes to the gas and when it comes to the high ground, but also when it comes to weapons, loadouts and attachment. I've actually had these discussions quite a few times now, where I hear from people saying, you should always do this, you should always follow this advice, I've heard this is so good strategy and whatnot. And the thing is, no, you should never follow anything blindly. Every situation is a unique situation, and you make your calculation based on what you see right then and there. So now, as you've probably noticed, throughout the video I have sometimes stayed just by the edge of the gas, and sometimes I run a little bit ahead of it. This is one of the situations when I stay right behind it because I feel like I have some cover, and then now I sprint ahead of it because I don't have any cover unless I do so. Now, this might seem simple enough when you look at it back in a video, but when that happens right then and there in the game, the intensity and the excitement might get the better of you. Now, some of the shots that you see here might actually give you somewhat of an explanation why I used the Grau over the M4, but that is not an easy choice. As of lately, I've actually started using the M4 more and more. And I would say that the way I've built my weapons, the M4 is a little bit better at closer medium range, and the Grau completely dominates at longer range. Here's another one of those examples. So now, if you pay attention to how I act here after I kill that guy, now after I kill that guy that was in front of me, I start looking in all kinds of other directions, because now I know that that area is more, or I don't know that, but it's more likely that that area is relatively secure. On the other hand, I know that people will know that I just took a guy out, and they might be trying to sneak up behind me.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I know that the Grau is really good at range, but that engagement versus sniper, I'm not taking it. Now notice also that I switched to the MP5 when I moved to this cover, and that's because I sprint faster using that weapon. Now that I'm behind some decent cover, I switch back to the Grau again, because most of these engagements here will be long range.
Fuck, I should have a self-revive now.
Yeah, carrying around with $30,000 but not having a self-revive at the end game. Yeah, I know. Another thing that a lot of people react on is why I wait so long before I use the UAV. But I honestly don't see the UAV being all that useful at the very end. But obviously it actually can be. So probably should be using the UAV right about now.
Oh, so bad.
Gas is moving.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. These two snipers makes me nervous. They have good cover, good positions. Now, don't get me wrong, my Grau is upgraded for these kinds of scenarios. And if you wanna take these kinds of engagements versus snipers, make sure that you have stable aim while strafing left and right. Do not, and I repeat, do not attempt to do this while standing still. You have to always move. You have to always strafe left and right, or they will headshot you, guaranteed. Now, I realize I have the UAV, but of course the guy that I'm facing has Ghost. I see him there, and this is the last player on the map. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and big thanks for watching.